dipping my toes into combat for the first time, learning what it feels like to take a life, which at the time it was exciting.
Yeah.
It was like, fuck yeah, I'm a ranger. Like, this is what we do. I was sitting on a rooftop with a Marine Corps scout sniper. He identified an enemy combatant. It was a 363-yard shot because I lased it. I'll never forget that. And I took the follow-on shot and dropped the guy. Like, there it is. That's it.
Yeah.
You've done multiple deployments. You were a ranger. You're sitting on a rooftop in Ramadi, and you just fucking killed a human being. And me and that dude gave each other a high five, and then he got killed the next morning by an IED. I remember thinking that next morning, I was like, wow, it came full circle that fast. Like, I killed that dude yesterday, and then the dude I was with got killed today. And it's just like, okay, this is what war feels like.
So do we just start out calling you professor?
No, dude. I tell people all the time, in my academy, my name's Greg.
Yeah.
And if I have to give myself a title that I expect you to address me as, we're probably not on the same frequency. Like,
that's the way Tom is too. He's like, sometimes I just do it just to bust his balls. Tom the Blast.
I have guys that call me professor all the time for that very reason. Like, sorry, you're a professor. It just is how it is.
Yeah. So if I bump into him, I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, professor. Like when we're rolling, let me get out of your way.
Yeah.
But anyways, man, dude, like we met during the, I don't know what you want to call it. Do you have a name for 2020 and when the world blew up?
I think everybody just refers to it as the plandemic now.
The plandemic.
I feel like there was a handful of guys that were pushing back right from the get-go.
Yeah.
And we were part of those circles.
Yeah.
And like we saw value in each other's messages, and also we found unity with each other. And my life obviously changed very drastically through that period.
As did mine.
But in hindsight, it connected me with a lot of the best people that I know, and it's been a true blessing looking back on it.
Yeah. I agree. Don't with any hardship, any challenge, something great comes out of it, right? It's just the way that it goes. You learn. But so before we get into your background, I want to talk like basically on that. So around the same time, my gym got raided, which is ironic because you were at the time a law enforcement officer in Seattle, correct?
Yes.
And I think you saw that, right? I think you commented or we got connected somehow, on that.
Yeah.
And because
I was also a gym owner too. I already had my academy at that time.
That's right.
And so I was seeing guys like you and Ian Smith getting your facilities raided, and I'm wearing both hats, gym owner and police officer. And that was one of the reasons why it was so troubling to me, because it's like, man, this is not who we are as police officers. This is not what we do as police officers. And I saw your guys' gyms getting raided. I saw mothers getting arrested at parks. We all saw that guy getting arrested for paddleboarding in the ocean.
Yeah.
And I remember I was sitting in the lunchroom at my department when that guy got arrested. And I remember sitting there, and there's 6 tables of cops watching this. And I'm like, guys, what are we doing? This isn't what we do. Since when does the government own the ocean? And bro, for you as a police officer to be able to physically detain someone and deprive them of their Fourth Amendment rights, we have to have what's called reasonable suspicion or probable cause that they committed a crime. Like, the game we play as cops is pretty simple. Hey, I have reason to believe this guy did this. Well, what are those reasons? And if I can articulate them, well, now I can either detain him to investigate further, or I can arrest him if I've already determined I have probable cause. Everything we were seeing cops doing was a direct violation of people's constitutional rights, because for laws to be enforced, they have to be legislated, they have to be on the books.
I was about to say, there's a statute. You say a crime.
That's exactly right.
There's a crime. You can't just make it up. There's a voted statute that you're arresting off of or detaining off of.
If I see somebody in Seattle prowling a vehicle, then I can detain him and I can say, hey, you are in direct violation of RCW, blah, blah, blah. When we book them, we have to, there's like literally a little box, which law was violated. Like it's a very clear game that we're playing. Now, don't get me wrong, it can get muddy through an investigation based on he said, she said, and all
Yeah.
that stuff, and
Yeah.
in the games the lawyers play. But as far as our legality to deprive people of their freedom, it's a very simple concept that you were taught in the police academy. Police officers were not having that. What they were having is their mayor or their governor just giving them this blanket order. Hey, no, no, no. You can go out there and you can enforce these mandates. And I was like, what the fuck is a mandate? Because you're in a position of power, you now get to determine if we take people's freedom or not. Like, that is not how America works.
Right.
It's actually the opposite of how our judicial system works here. And I saw so many cops doing it. And the most frustrating thing is when I saw cops enforcing these mandates, but then they were being a bitch about it at the same time. They're like, hey, I don't like this any more than you do, but I'm just doing my job. If you don't like it any more than they do, what you're saying is you feel that this is out of alignment with your values and your morals and your ethics. So stand up and be a leader.
Wasn't that the same? Wasn't it the same statement that the Nazis were saying during the Nuremberg trials?
100%, man. And like, I saw the writing on the wall, and I saw that happen. The paddleboarder. I saw two young Hispanic ladies in Texas that were doing nails out of their own house.
Isn't one of them going on? Didn't she just get in public office?
Oh, I didn't know that. No,
one of the salons. Brandon, can you look that up? One of the salon ladies that got arrested for operating during that time is now an elected official, and I don't know what level of the state, but like, yeah. Anyways, he'll tell us in a second.
And then I don't know if you saw this, but in California they did some sting operations to go after jiu-jitsu academies. Like, oh, those guys are still training. And that's when it was like, dude, I can't take this anymore. I am in a position of power as a police officer, right? I wear the uniform that holds authority behind it. And I was like, I have to speak out against what I'm seeing in uniform as a police officer. And I wasn't speaking to citizens. I was speaking to other police officers. That was the whole message. It was like, guys, this isn't who we are. This isn't what we do. You don't have legal or constitutional authority to be doing the things that you're doing. And most importantly, it is always a struggle for the profession of law enforcement to maintain a healthy relationship with your community. And as you guys well know, there's an ebb and flow to that based on political theater or just, whatever is transpiring in our societies. And I saw this happening and I was like, man, this is going to destroy the relationship between the profession of law enforcement and the citizens of America. And I just knew that things were going to go south. Now, I didn't have the foresight to understand that they were going to use George Floyd as the catalyst for that. But it was the beginning of making Americans hate police officers. And we were willingly taking part in it. And I talked about that.
When you were in the break room and you were watching that guy get arrested on the beach, what was the response when you said something to the rest of the crew there?
Bro, every cop in the lunchroom's like, that's right. I would never do that. What are they doing?
Yeah.
Bro, everybody has a lot of courage when you're sitting in a lunchroom and you're not being asked to go violate somebody's constitutional rights.
Yeah.
But what I saw, what everybody saw, how many cops drew a hard line and said, no, I'm not doing that today? Hardly any.
Unfortunately, not as many as I would have hoped and thought.
Yeah. And it really, and don't get me wrong, man. I have tons of students that are cops. I have tons of friends that are cops. I know there's a lot of respectable men and women still in that profession. But I wouldn't be being honest if I didn't say that I was a little disappointed in how the profession represented itself during that period. Not a lot of people stood up and sided with the citizens, and that's who we're sworn to defend and protect.
Yeah.
The profession of law enforcement isn't established to let political elites run amok, and that's what they were using us as.
Her name was Shelley Luther, salon owner jailed for refusing to shutter her business during COVID. Wins seat in state legislature in Texas, I believe.
There you go. Awesome.
75% vote too.
Nice.
It's awesome. That's like Tulsi being on the Quiet Skies list, and now she's the DNI. It's fucking perfect, dude. I just love it so much. I just love it. So, Greg, what led? So obviously, like, this stuff happened in March. I got raided, like, I want to say end of March, beginning of April. Ian was, I think, about the same time. It was all kind of happening at the same time. And then you made that video in May, correct?
May 5th.
May 5th. What led you to that decision to, like, I'm gonna sit in my patrol car and make this video? Like, what was your thought process going in there?
Well, bro, it was a combination of things. First and foremost was those incidents that I just kept witnessing.
Yeah.
Every time I looked at Instagram, every time I turned on the news, I saw people's rights being violated. But also, you know, by May 5th, when I made the video, this had been going on for a month or two at that point, right?
Right.
I think out of the gates, it was hard to know what was fact and what was fiction. And it's funny because everybody you talk to now, they're like, I never fucking believed it for a second. It's like, no, we all did to a certain extent.
Yeah, of course.
We've never been through something like this before.
You didn't know. Yeah, I didn't know what I didn't know.
Yeah, and so I shut my gym down because, dude, is the bubonic plague coming? Like, dude, I think we're all reasonable human beings, and I would never do something that's going to put somebody in harm's way.
I did for 2 weeks because, again, I didn't know. Hindsight, I would have not. And, you know, it, to me, coming from special operations, it stunk of psychological warfare.
Yes.
Like, I did have that. I was like, I'm not buying this. Like, I'm just, it stinks of psychological warfare. And, but again, you don't know what you don't know. Is the bubonic cloud? I don't fucking know, you know? So I was like, okay, we'll do 2 weeks. But that's when, at the end of that 2 weeks, when the governor came out and gave zero plan for fitness, and the way he worded everything, I'm like, oh, this is total bullshit. And then, so we just implemented a plan and opened the doors back up. And that's when the shit started to roll downhill.
Yeah, and so I started to see things that it just was not congruent with the truth.
Yeah.
These big box stores could stay open. Mom and pop shops are getting shut down. Anything
liquor. We're an ABC state, so liquor stores were able to stay open.
Yeah, I mean, come on, dude, right? And I started to see, like, some of my buddies are in the trades, and anyone that was, I mean, we're talking electricians, plumbers. If they were on a government contract, they got to stay employed.
Right.
But anybody doing private work, nope, you have to stay home and stay safe. And too many things like that started happening. And bro, you want to know what the catalyst was? The straw that broke the camel's back for me? My tab on my license plate of my truck had expired that month. And I was like, dude, this little green sticker, is renewing this sticker, are they going to be considered essential? Because that's money in the government's pocket, right? And so I called the licensing place and I say, hey, are you guys open through the pandemic? Yes, we've been deemed essential. And then I was like, okay, fuck all of you.
That was it. It was something as simple as that.
Yeah, my gym can't stay open. Your gym can't stay open. But if you need a little green sticker on the back of your truck, we're going to allow you to risk your life.
That does nothing.
It does nothing.
That says nothing and solves no problem.
Other than put $65 in the pocket of the government.
Right.
And that's when I was like, okay, I'm done playing these charades now. You know, it's not about safety at this point. If it was about safety, no one would risk their lives for a little green sticker.
Right.
And we could both share 100 little stories like that where we just saw things not adding up. And so that was for me, that was like, okay, I'm done playing this game. And I remember I was in my patrol car when I called the licensing place, and they're like, I remember where I was parked, and they said, yeah, we're open for business. And I was like, okay, thank you. And I'm like, within a half an hour, it was when I made that video. So, like, dude, I'm done.
So you didn't seek counsel, you didn't talk to anybody about it, you just fire for effect.
Oh, fuck no, bro. Yeah, I don't care.
Okay.
And that's the thing that's very interesting to me, man. And I know we're going to go back and talk about, like, my military service and my deployments and stuff. And I've seen a lot of men be very, very courageous, like, under fire, very courageous in situations that could end their life, but then they're afraid to say no to their commander, or they're afraid to say, Chief, I don't think that that's right. And it's like, dude, are you a man of courage?
I'm gonna get some hate here, but you've been on some teams. I've been on some teams where everybody bitches about something going on, and then when it gets brought up, there's a whole bunch of people looking at their toes.
Yes.
And then you're the asshole, and I would imagine you're the guy that's like, I got something to say because I was that guy, and I always got the shit in the stick for it. But like, I'm like, yeah, this is the problem. And then I look around and everybody's staring at their fucking feet. I'm like, guys, we just fucking talked about this.
I've been in that exact same scenario in Ramadi, Iraq, standing out front of our hooch. Like, I can visualize it. And it's like, you guys got no problems going downtown and getting in ambushes all the time. But to tell the project manager, hey, this is fucking bullshit, you're afraid of that?
Right.
And it's because, I mean, these were the early contract days where we're making $30K a month. And everybody was drunk, intoxicated on that money.
Right.
And it was, but I saw a similar thing play out, 10 years later as a police officer. Like, in the lunchroom, everybody's bitching, I would never do that. And then when it comes time to actually say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to do that. We just didn't see a lot of that.
So in that moment, Craig, you recorded this video, you've written your little caption, which I remember. You've written your little caption, and what was your mindset when you hit fucking publish?
If I'm being completely honest with you, I did not envision that being the end of my career, because my sergeant and I were close. He was the only other guy in the whole department that was another 75th veteran. So, like, close with my sergeant, my commander and my chief had nothing but respect for me. I was a good patrol officer, man.
Yeah.
I was one of the guys that had the respect of everybody. And
you got the background, you've got the training, you've got the leadership. You got
I show up, man, and people know that they can count on me. And when that's your reputation as a police officer, man, you're a well-liked person amongst the department. But I also didn't think that what I said was egregious either. I mean, I wouldn't have said it if I thought it was egregious. I literally said, hey, our job as police officers is to defend people's constitutional rights. I didn't know that you couldn't say that as a police officer, right? So it gets weird after this, because my commander calls me and he goes, Greg, I just watched your video. What a powerful message, man. Spot on. He goes, everything you just said was spot on. And I was like, cool. The department has my back too. Now, if you noticed,
hold on, but from a big picture standpoint, if I go to a 30,000-foot view, what a rally for the American people to have a police officer that's respected to say something like that. It's like, it would immediately puts everybody at ease. Like, yes, like law enforcement should have rallied around that and be like, absolutely, we are here to
100%.
serve the people.
It was a missed opportunity, man.
Yeah.
It was a missed opportunity, because my own commander told me how proud he was.
I remember that
I made that video. Yeah. And then the same guy, because this was Tuesday night. It was the end of I worked weekends, Monday, Tuesday. And then I had, I went on my days off. So Wednesday morning, I'm not at work. He calls me back and he goes, hey, man, I know we talked about your video briefly yesterday, but I've been directed to tell you it has to come down because it's over 400,000 views. It's just getting a little too big. And I said, sir, I didn't know that a good message, as you put it, is something that we want to stifle and that we don't want to share. So why is it a problem that a good message is being seen so many times? And you could hear in his voice the backpedaling, hey, listen, Greg, like all that kind of stuff, right? Because he knew it was a good message. He was directed to tell me it had to come down.
Who directed him?
That's what I was going to say. The rumor mill told me that it came from the governor's office, but that was never confirmed.
Okay.
If I had to guess, that's probably correct. And I heard that through some pretty credible sources.
It would make sense based off of that state's governor. And what they're
Yeah, it was Jay Inslee, who
Yeah.
is as radical as they get.
Right.
And so I tend to believe that's where it came from. But anytime I say that, I have to give that little caveat because I don't know.
The governor didn't call you and say, Greg, it was me.
Yeah, exactly. And so he goes, listen, Greg, I've been directed to tell you it has to come down. And if you're unwilling to do it, I have to move forward with termination for insubordination.
So that was put out there right out the gate.
Right off the gate.
Because that was my next question. What was the professional, not personal? Let's talk professional only. Professional fallout.
The professional fallout was the little I gotcha moment was you were on social media in uniform, and that is technically a violation of the department's social media policy.
Okay.
Now, if you go through the social media policy, it says you cannot be identified as a police officer under our department.
Okay.
That's why my hat, I don't know if you remember, my hat was turned around.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want it to say what my department was, because that's part of our policy. Okay.
Yeah.
That's reasonable, right?
Sure.
I'm a reasonable person.
Kind of similar to like the military, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Bro, I could show you 100 TikTok videos of officers with their dogs and doing bullshit. It was very clear. This isn't because of a policy violation. This is because of the message that was being put out. But that's what they used as an I got you moment.
Sure.
And so I said, listen, sir, you want to fire me for saying that it's our job to defend people's constitutional rights? Then do that. And dude, the crazy thing is, he has since retired and has tried to I've gotten apology emails and, hey, can we talk? And it's like, no, bro. Everybody gets courage after retirement. I'm not impressed by that, dude, at all, you know?
Not even close.
And so I was put on leave. They did their investigation. And just like anything in the government, it takes 5 months to terminate someone. So it was May, June, July, the end of August is when I actually got terminated. But here's the thing, man. And when I say this to people, I think you'll understand. A lot of people won't. When you've been exposed to enough warfare and violence and close calls, I don't live in fear anymore.
Yeah, right.
So, the thought of, oh, hey, you might lose your job as a police officer. Okay, well,
you just
I'll
bet
go
on
drive
yourself so much. You just have
That's
so
what I'm
much.
saying.
Yeah.
I'll go
Exactly.
drive for Amazon until I figure out what's next.
Right.
I don't hold a lot of fear around the unknown, because through my 20s, that's all we experienced, you know?
Yeah.
And you become conditioned to that, and you start to realize, just like you said, oh man, if I bet on myself, shit works out for me.
Yeah.
And if you know that about yourself, then it's not this big sad story that, oh no, I'm not going to be a cop anymore. And then the other side of it is, I knew in my heart, if I can't publicly say that as a police officer, I'm here to defend the Constitution, that's not an organization or a profession that I want to be a part of anymore. So me getting let go, there was never a sad story. I wasn't all distraught about it.
Yeah.
I knew early on that it was a blessing in disguise, and that I was just going to have to pivot and take my life in a new direction and make something else work. And bro, my gym grew by 600% in the next 12 months. And now
that tells you something, right?
People don't like to talk about money. I don't know why they think that that's a strange, oh no, we don't talk about money. Because when I say this, I'm not trying to boast or act like a big shot, but I want people to know, if you have the courage to step outside and invest in a new path, the potential for growth is always there. Don't be stifled by fear and be afraid to walk through that door. And so now we're to the point where our gym is making 4x what I made as a police officer.
Congratulations, man.
And I'm doing that as something that I'm extremely passionate about. I don't know if we mentioned it yet, but it's a jiu-jitsu academy. We just signed our 272nd student. So huge student base. But what's more important than how many students we have is the type of people we've attracted.
Yeah.
And we have a great community. We're building kids. We have a women's program. And I'm seeing so much value being imparted on people on our mats that it makes me realize that was my life's mission. I just needed to go through these trials and tribulations before I could be the person that I needed to be to run the academy. And
So well said.
it's all worked out.
So when you were in the what do you call it, the investigation or termination process, do you guys have union reps? Was there anybody trying to fight for you? Like,
Bro, that was another thing that was kind of shocking to me. The union reps, the lawyers, like, behind closed doors, we're going to go to bat for you. We're going to sue them, this, that. And then when it actually comes down to it, hey, you know what, Greg, once we looked a little closer, it just doesn't seem like we're going to really be able to help you through this process. You know, they got their T's crossed and their I's dotted, and I don't really know what to tell you, but it's not looking good. That was everybody. You know, I did the what is it, the Ingram factor or whatever that on Fox News.
Yeah.
And their lawyers are like, we're going to sue them for First Amendment violation. We're going to this, we're going to that.
I got some of the same stuff, and it went fucking
and then
nowhere.
As soon as the cameras go off, they don't give a fuck about you.
Yeah.
And the same lawyer that's on Fox News saying that she's going to fucking go to war for me, I get on the phone with her firm, and they want $20,000.
Of course.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And sure as shit, I spent $20,000 trying to build this case, and my department, they laughed at it, and they said, "Fuck, we'll fucking see you in court." And then my lawyers are like, "Well, I don't know if this is a winnable case. I really caution you moving forward." And bro, here's the thing: I don't care if it's a winnable case or not. Just tell me the truth up front.
Right.
Don't make a show when we're on TV.
And then, right.
And then just be like, sorry, you're fucked when the camera's turned off. And so I started to just, there was a part of me that wanted to push back and fight and find some type of victory. But after, like I said, I think we spent $20,000 on different lawyers, different hearings. And I realized, you know what, I could piss away a lot more money. I could spend time doing things that's low vibration. It's not serving me. It's still stuck in their gross system. How about I just completely wipe my hands of it, walk away, and focus on me? And that's what we ended up doing, man.
Same. It was 2 years later, though. 2 years later, I think it was six. I don't want people destroying me because the videos are out there, but I think we spent like 65 grand. Yep. And after 2 years, it just came down to a dismissal. Both people walked away, and nothing happened. Nobody was, I mean, there was a couple people that got fired, but nothing really happened. The city wasn't held accountable. For the only thing that I could say that I won was they were going to give me $1 or something like that, $1.01 as like reparations for like what they did.
Thanks, guys.
But to agree to that dollar, it could be like 99 cents. I don't remember. It was something ridiculous, and it was a gag order. I could never talk about any of it publicly ever again.
It's like, guys, I will say whatever the fuck I want for the rest of my life. You don't like that? Do something about it.
Yeah. And so after 2 years and all that money spent, I just realized, you know who won? The lawyers won on this.
Yep.
You know,
and that's how it shakes out, man.
You know, we want this grand thing, like we stuck it to them, we proved ourselves right, but nobody did. Nobody got that. Not Ian, not me, not you. Nobody got it.
But you know what we did get, man? We got put on a new trajectory that money couldn't buy. And so, like, all their bullshit, thank you for that.
So,
and then the other thing, if I'm being transparent, like, we ended up getting the nation rallied behind my family, and my wife's friends started to GoFundMe for me.
Yeah.
And bro, we made over $400,000 in that GoFundMe, and man, we were extremely grateful for that, and we were using that GoFundMe for these hearings and for these demand letters being sent and shit like that. And then I realized, I saw the writing on the wall. I was like, I'm going to drain this whole nest egg instead of using it for something that could actually help launch me into the next phase of my life.
Yeah.
And so once I saw that's what to try and fight that and utilize all of that money, That's just ego at that point.
Yeah, right.
So I was like, I need to be tactical about this. And after we, like I said, and I don't remember if it was 6 or 8 months, however long we started to get stuck in the judicial system. Um, I ended up putting all that money back into my gym. I said, you know what? I already jiu-jitsu professor.
Right.
And we also have a CrossFit gym at the same location that my buddy runs. I don't do that CrossFit stuff. I used to. And I was like, okay, we have a huge presence in the community now through jiu-jitsu and CrossFit, because by this time that story had went viral. We remained open and violated the lockdowns, and memberships were going through the roof. Not only because people were like, hey, I like what he said, or I can understand like their culture and their vibe is in alignment with mine, but also we got people that didn't even know who the fuck we were. They're like, hey, little Susie does dance, but dance is closed down.
Free press.
And the only thing open in town is jiu-jitsu, so we want to give this a try. And it was really cool because as memberships really started to grow, the type of people that were showing up at the academy are the type of people that were pushing back.
Yeah.
They were violating the lockdown order too.
You were finding your tribe, your people.
Yes, man. Yeah. And then once you have a couple hundred people that are from that mindset, the culture in your academy is now set. That's the foundation, and it's never shifted, man. I think I have the best culture of any jiu-jitsu academy I've ever seen. I might be a little biased because it's mine.
It's okay.
But we have the coolest people, men, women, children. They're on our frequency, man.
Yeah.
And I know, like, your vibe attracts your tribe. I know that's kind of like a cliche saying, but it's also true. I see it every day I walk into the academy.
Greg, what was the personal cost? I mean, what did you lose? Like, did you have people distance themselves from you that you thought were friends? Like, how did it affect your personal? It's like, I know you got your wife and kids and everything.
No, I don't really consider anything a personal cost, and that's why I don't tell myself this is a sad story. There were a handful of police officers that I considered homies that are like, dude, what are you doing? Are you fucking crazy? Like, you got kids at home. And like, they kind of showed me their true colors. That it's like, dude, as soon as there's any type of turmoil, they're willing to bend a knee.
Yeah.
I'm not losing those types of relationships it's not a sad story.
I guess what I'm asking, like, it's like for me, my wife was in her 3rd trimester. They were threatening to arrest me and take me to jail all the time. And so like it was stressful.
Let me say, I was just going to say, let me say this, because even though I don't think like it cost me any meaningful relationships or anything like that, when they said that my gym had to be shut down, I remember watching guys such as yourself and Ian, like, did you get yarded out of your gym in handcuffs? I don't remember.
No, they never did. That was close. Like they were threatening all the time.
Yes. So,
and like, well, I'm about to have a kid. My wife's like, babe, you can't go to jail. Like, you know?
Well, and so, dude, I told my wife, I said, and you guys can go back, 'cause I got receipts for it. Mm-hmm. I made an Instagram video, and this was a month or something after the one that went super viral. And I said, hey, I've been directed to shut my gym down.
I remember that.
Just so everybody's clear here, I'm not going to put cardboard on the front doors and the windows and have you sneak in the back. Like, let me be crystal clear. My gym is fucking open.
Yeah.
My body armor and my AR-15 are here. And if you want to fucking arrest me, go the fuck ahead and try. And dude, I have lots of friends that were police officers. I was a police officer several months earlier. But if you think you're going to make a spectacle out of me on the nightly news and yard me out of my... Bro, I bought the lot. I built the structure from the ground up. That's my fucking gym. And if you think you're taking me out of there in handcuffs, bro, I've been willing to fight to the death for much less, as of you, right?
Yes.
For much less, dude. And there were days when hugging my wife to go open the gym to teach jiu-jitsu, the feeling, you know, when you're going on deployment and you're like, fuck, man.
This could be it.
This is probably the last time I hug her.
Yeah.
I was having those feelings, man.
Oh. Damn.
And that's and dude, there's nothing telling the story years later, dude. I still feel that.
Yeah,
Like
it's crazy. It's like, you know, to be cliche, it's like they really did. Like, dude, I just wanted to like have fun and be with my family and make my money in my businesses. And I do. I feel like they came and they drew first blood. I feel like it was like a scene out of fucking Rambo. Like dude, I served my country for 12 years. Now it's my time to enjoy the freedoms that I fought for, you know, or allegedly fought for. Right.
Well, we can talk about that next.
Yeah.
But,
so, you know, and
no,
it was a
bro,
lot.
I wasn't trying to like, dude, I'm not trying to like instigate. I'm not trying to make a controversial video saying that I'm going to kill police officers. I'm telling you, like, I'm not here to fucking do anything other than teach my martial arts and build my business and support my family. And if you think you're going to arrest me, I was to the point where I was like, this will be it. And I was at peace with that decision because it's like, dude, I know that you might be a 24-year-old sheriff's deputy that's been tasked to go arrest me. But at the end of the day, if you're putting your stamp of approval on it and you're kicking my door in and you're putting handcuffs on me, sorry, bro. It's a fight to the death. You're probably going to lose.
You're the enemy.
Yep.
Yeah.
And let me say this too. Anytime that I bring this up, I like to give a shout out to Sheriff Adam Fortney, who was our county sheriff at the time. And word got back to me that he was like, we're not going to do anything to them. We're not going to enforce the lockdowns. We're not going to arrest Greg. We're not going to do any of that. And it wasn't because like, oh, we don't want a problem with Greg, like they're afraid of me.
Oh,
it was like, he supports freedom. And you know, what's funny is he's done my podcast since, and I thanked him for that because I said, bro, the truth is I might be alive because of your policies.
Greg, I saw that in a lot of specifically sheriff's departments. What is the trend there with sheriffs of counties that just did not?
Typically, the difference is chiefs of police are appointed and sheriffs are voted in by the people.
Ah, got it.
That's the typical difference between those. And so not only are they acutely aware of what their constituents think of them, but generally people that are in alignment with the community are the people that are sitting in those offices because it is an elected appointed position.
That makes sense. Yeah, just a little bit closer to the actual person that lives there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So was there any, because, you know, I got a decent amount of it. Was there any negative backlash for you? Did you have people coming after you, et cetera?
The only negative backlash that I ever heard from anyone came through this right here, my phone. Lots of people, death threats. People were giving my wife death threats because you remember the people that were on the radical fringes of this. I was the cop saying not enforce the lockdown.
Yeah.
I'm going to get everybody killed. You're killing grandmas.
But nothing organized. No serious, no organized or serious backlash to you and your family.
Nope. And I think we both know why. It's like, guys like us are real easy to find. Come have your fucking problem with me. And it's not that I'm the toughest dude in the world, but I'm also not going to be fucking bullied by anybody. And I think it's very apparent that men like us aren't going to be bullied. So they're not going to bring their shit into real world.
So obviously you don't regret it. You'd do it again in a heartbeat, right?
Bro, without a second of hesitation.
Would you do anything different?
You know, I don't know if I guess if I'm being honest, in hindsight, I would have done it sooner. You know?
Well, that says something, doesn't it?
Yeah, I would have done it sooner because if you remember, dude, it took years of men like us being berated. Anytime I would talk about things, like the post before I did the video that changed my life was me doing a kettlebell workout. And there's people talking shit. They're like, see, this dude's nothing but a fucking dumb meathead just lifting weights with his shirt off or whatever. And it's like, oh, I didn't know being into fitness correlates being a stupid person.
Dude, how else are you gonna have to, establish neighborhood dad dominance?
Yeah, that's right, bro. It's funny you say that. I tell my girls, I have 3 daughters, and I tell them anytime I go to like one of your recitals or your theaters, I have to be the toughest dad in the auditorium. That's part of my ethos.
Yeah. It's like going to jail. Establish dominance first.
Yes,
find the biggest
right.
dude in there.
Although in today's culture, that's not hard, man. Almost every other dad in there has a gut. It's like,
I know,
man, what are you
it's
guys
so
doing?
sad. So, dude, before all of this, take me back before the badge and before the badge came off. Where did you grow up out there?
Yeah, I grew up an hour north of Seattle in a town called Snohomish.
How does a dude grow up north of Seattle that joins the 75th Ranger Regiment? Walk me down that path.
Bro, Snohomish is actually almost like a farm town. It's like people think of Washington being like radically left.
Yeah.
But King County, where Seattle is like the epicenter of liberalism. Mm-hmm. But as soon as you start to get on the outskirts of that, there's a lot of good, hardworking people. Washington has lots of farmers, lots of ranchers, lots of orchards, stuff like that, and a lot of humans that are still rooted in reality. And so when I graduated in 99. I hated school, and I didn't want to go right into the workforce. So that pretty much gives you one more option.
Damn, we have a hell of a demographic, don't we?
Yeah, dude. And I was like, well, and I remember I was 17. And I was like, well, if I'm going to join, I should probably do something badass. I'm going to be an Army Ranger or a Navy SEAL. And I don't even know what those missions or what those units are capable of.
Or what those things, or what they are, really. Right.
Yeah, I know nothing.
Yeah.
But I've just heard Army Ranger, Navy SEAL. Those guys are badass.
Especially
right?
in 99. There was nothing. We didn't know shit.
Yeah, there was nothing. And so, and I remember one of my buddies, he was going in too. He goes, dude, the Rangers, like, they wear all black and they do like covert operations all the time. And I was like, all this shit. I was like, oh, that sounds rad.
Freaking rad. Let's do that. Yeah.
Come to find out, we don't do any of that shit, And don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed the 75th, which we'll get into.
Yeah.
But I go to the recruiters, and remember, I think they're still like this. All the recruiters are all in a row lined up. Marines, Navy, Air Force, Army. And they're all trying to poach from each other, right? Mm-hmm. So I go to the recruiters, and a Navy guy calls me in first, and he's like, what do you want to be? As like a SEAL. But every single person that walks in there says they want to be a SEAL, right?
Yeah.
And dude, this dude, I mean, for lack of a better word, was just a fucking douche, right? He was super pushy. He started annoying me. He just felt like kind of a pussy. And I was like, oh, dude, the Navy guys are actually pussies. Like the Navy guys are dorks. And I walk out, and there's a dude standing there with a Ranger tab. And he goes, hey, you want to hear about the Army? And I was just like, oh, man, this dude's badass. And he was never in the 75th. He had just went through Ranger school, right? But I didn't understand any of that stuff.
Doesn't matter at that point. That Ranger tab probably helped him a lot in that job.
Yeah, dude. And he shook my hand and just gave off like badass vibes, and he seemed cool. And I remember thinking, dude, oh, the Army guys are badass and the Navy guys are dorks. I'm going in the Army. And it's like, dude, to make a choice like that has the potential to change the rest of your life.
I know.
Based on 2 people that don't represent the organization as a whole whatsoever. But guess what? Ranger guys seem badass. I want to be an Army Ranger, and that's what we did.
Very similar story for me in the Marine Corps. Yeah. Except the Marine Corps told me no. And that's really why I was like, oh, fuck you. Watch this.
Oh, yeah, fuck you.
Yeah, hold my beer. I'm going to. Yeah.
And so, yeah, dude, I went in 1999, went down to Fort Benning. Mm-hmm. You do all the shit. You do basic.
Did you do a Ranger contract?
I did not have a Ranger contract.
Wow.
That's the thing. So, and again, 17 years old, I don't know what's right and what's wrong. And the recruiter told me, said, there's no Ranger contracts left. But if I get you airborne infantry and get you slotted to go to the 82nd, at the conclusion of airborne school, you'll be able to go down to the 75th headquarters and say, I want to attend selection. And I'll tell you what, man, that's exactly what happened, and it worked out perfectly.
No shit.
However, that option is only available when the regiment needs numbers. There's plenty of
So it
airborne
doesn't always
schools.
work.
Yeah, exactly. There's
Yeah.
plenty of airborne school gets ran all the time, and there's no follow-on RIP class, or it's
Yeah.
RASP now, right?
Yeah.
But it ended up working out for me, and thank God, man. And that's why I tell the young kids that are interested, that listen to this, get it in your contract.
Of course. If you
Period.
can, always go for it, right?
Yes,
That's what I tell them. Yeah.
And I tell them too, like, hey, if they say that they can't, say, well, call me when you can.
Right. It's your career.
Yeah.
Yeah, run it.
It's your career.
Yeah.
And so ended up going through RIP. And it's funny too, because people hear that RIP at the time was only 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a super long selection, but they're not trying to teach you SOPs and how to do shit inside of the regiment. They're just kicking your shit in for 3 weeks.
See if you can
seeing
handle
if
it.
You can hack it.
Yeah.
And then once you pass that, then you get assigned to a battalion, and then you get, basically you're under the tutelage of your team leader. That is who really brings you up in the Ranger Regiment. And so,
you know how stupid I was, Greg, as a young sergeant going into Force Recon? I showed up to RIP 2 months early.
why?
Because I'm a fucking idiot. So my RIP turned into 2.5 months.
You had a bunch of 0 weeks or holdover phase.
So, but it was the same every fucking day.
Well, it's actually funny you say that, because my first day of RIP, they said, hey, we're going to call 5 names, fall out to the rear formation. You guys are no-goes, and you can recycle to the next class, or you can go worldwide, they called it. Going worldwide means you're now back into the needs of the Army, and you're going to go wherever the fuck the Army wants to send you.
Okay.
And they called my name. And I was like, what the fuck, dude? Like, it's literally day 1. How could I fail already?
Yeah.
And I go to the rear, and a cadre member comes up to us and goes, hey, you guys have some type of discrepancy on your physicals, because I forget there was some indicator or marker that your physical needed to have to attend RIP that wasn't just part of a regular physical. And they said, and maybe it's because I didn't have it in my contract, right?
Yeah.
But regardless, I had to have some type of my physical amended to be able to continue with the course.
Same with us. Our physical, we had to do an NSW physical.
Okay, so whatever that.
And it's only not everybody gets that. It's only for if you're slotted for that.
So, yeah, that's exactly what it was then.
Yeah.
And so they said you can be on holdover for 3 weeks, get that portion of your physical completed, start with the next class, or you can quit and go worldwide. I'm like, I'm not going to quit over a physical discrepancy, you know? But as you know, they try and get you to quit anywhere they can.
Oh, of course.
You know?
Of course.
And, but just like you said, those 3 weeks, I basically did RIP back to back.
You did RIP twice, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like you're going to sit in the barracks and do nothing.
Fuck no, man. No. Gnarly PT, and then every when you're a private, man, you're a fucking janitor, you're a carpenter, you're a painter, you're a landscaper. Like, they fucking would work us to
dude,
death.
I think RIP before RIP is even worse, because you have they have no oversight. There's nothing organized. So those sadistic fucks that came before us, they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna get this guy to quit before it even classes up.
And some of the guys that were like thrashing us at the time, it's like, oh, who's this guy? No. They've only been there a couple weeks longer than you. You know?
Yeah.
And they act like they're in charge because they kind of know what's going on.
They haven't done anything. So you eventually get through, right?
Yep, I pass RIP, and then I get stationed in Fort Lewis, Washington, which at the time I was happy about, because I had a girlfriend and I was from Seattle, and Fort Lewis is 2 hours south of Seattle. Okay. And so it was far enough away where I was still removed from my regular life, but close enough that on the weekends I could still kind of go home and reconnect. And you know, that's a double-edged sword. Some people think that that's kind of detracts from the military experience, but whatever, it was what it was. And I was in that unit until 9/11. And so, like, after 9/11, it didn't matter if you
Did
were
you go to Ranger
stationed close
school? They sent you to Ranger
Yes.
school? Okay.
Yep. So, funny story. I went to Ranger school, My last day of Ranger School, I was class 0901. Did you go through Ranger School?
I did not.
Okay, so the last day of Ranger School is down in Eglin Air Force Base, Florida. And if you get your goes, that means you graduated.
Yeah.
And so the next day, you put on your parachutes, you load up on the C-130s, they drop you, you parachute back into Fort Benning, turn your gear in, graduate the next day. So we were on the tarmac with our rigs on, getting ready to get on the aircraft. And cadre came out and they're like, hey, de-rig, repalletize the parachutes right over here, come into the auditorium. There's something we need to talk about. And it was 9/11, dude.
Holy shit.
Yeah, they said, hey, all jumps are canceled, all aircrafts are grounded, and this is why. And we're like, what the fuck, dude? And that was September 11th, 2001. By October, we were already deployed, and we were getting ready to jump onto Objective Rhino and be the initial. I mean, there was already some special operations guys. I know some SF guys and some unit guys that were already on the ground.
Billy Wall and all those guys were doing their thing. Yeah.
But this was like to spearhead the conventional forces going in. So they sent 3rd Ranger Battalion and then Alpha Company from 2nd Ranger Battalion, which was my company, was attached. And bro, the night of the actual jump, my first sergeant comes out of the TOC, and I see him fucking throwing chairs and swearing, and he's like, company formation right now. And so we all go and we're standing there, and he goes, regimental headquarters has determined that this is not a battalion plus size operation, and 2nd Battalion has been cut from the mission. And we sat on the tarmac, and 3rd Ranger Battalion invaded Afghanistan. And we never even we never even had a follow-on operation. They sent us back stateside.
Holy shit.
So, and bro, the crazy thing is this was October 19th, 2001. It was my 21st birthday. And I was invading Afghanistan for my 21st birthday. And then we got not only did our company get pulled from the operation, they sent us back stateside. We didn't even get to go in on follow-up. So that was pretty devastating. And the funny thing is they only killed one dude on that op.
Yeah.
And I heard he got shot like 150 times. Because every single ranger that walked by him was like, "Oh, dude,
dead check."
You know, we haven't killed a person in combat since Somalia." So, but you know, it would have been cool to just be part of that for the historical sense of it.
Yeah.
But we ended up rotating back into Afghanistan several months later, and I ended up doing 2 deployments to Afghanistan with regiment, and then a bunch to Iraq as a contractor. So
and were you know, we know a lot of the same friends. Were you in there with Rocco at the same time, or Joe Luplo?
No, Rocco, yes. Luplo, I'm not familiar with him.
Joe Luplo?
No.
They were
crossed paths.
They were there together too.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, fuck, dude, it's been 20 years now.
I know, we're old. Isn't that crazy? Yeah, I look in the mirror sometimes. I'm like, who the fuck's this old dude staring back at me? Because in my mind, I'm still 25 years old.
Yep. I tell you what, though, we're getting old, but guys like Cam Haines and Joe Rogan are paving the path that you can still be a fucking savage in your 60s.
I'm watching Sylvester Stallone. I'm like, I don't know how much gear he's on at this point at 75 or 80 years old, damn near what he's at. But I'm like, that's the route that I'm heading. I don't give a shit what anybody says. I was just going to say,
when I'm his age, I'll be taking I'm on TRT right now, and I already love it. I'll be taking, if I make it to 75, I'll be taking quadruple doses.
100%, man. I'm not going out lightly, man. The whole decrepit thing is not for me. At that age, I'm still doing jiu-jitsu. You know, and hopefully, you know, pushing it on some of these, you know, I'll call our age kids, you know. So 75th, you did 2 to Afghanistan with 75th?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
So I did my first rotation in, I think it was late 01, early 02. And then our second deployment was, we got there in January of 03. Mm-hmm. And the regiment was doing 3-month rotations. Right. And so you're in for 3, you're out for 6. But it was January, February, March of 03. And then March 19th of 2003, the rest of Ranger Regiment invaded Iraq. And so I remember our PL got everybody together. So we missed 2 invasions now, right?
You're like,
and
son of a bitch.
And we were way out in this remote outpost. It was a safe house called in Bari Kaut, Afghanistan, way north of Asadabad along the border. And he calls us all out and he's like, hey, I've just been notified that the rest of the regiment invaded Iraq. We have no relief coming. So we're going to be in Afghanistan until further notice.
Holy shit.
That's all. And that's all I know. And I was like, oh, all right. And we ended up doing about a 6.5 month deployment. But for fucking Rangers, that's like, oh my God.
That's
dude.
a long deployment.
That's the longest deployment in the world.
Yeah.
And it's funny because all the other infantry units are doing year-plus deployments.
Yeah, we didn't do a year, but a lot of times we're supposed to do 6 or 7, and we end up almost every time we end up doing 9. It's like, I think they just do it on purpose. They just it's only going to be 6-7 months, and the next thing you know, you're there for 9 months.
Yep. But I can tell you, man, my Afghanistan deployments, when I look back on those were some of my most meaningful life experiences. And my weapon didn't even come off safe one time, dude.
No shit.
When you combine those 2 deployments, I was in Afghanistan for 10 months. And my weapon never even came off safe, dude. We got ID'd a couple times. The base would get mortared because that happens all the time.
What was your guys' mission set during that time?
Dude, we were operating safe houses and we were patrolling nonstop and we were trying to identify routes in and out of Pakistan. And then we'd get sent on like HVT raids all the time too. Like, hey, we got intel that Heck Maynor and the Delta guys are going here.
Yeah,
and it's like
dry
hole.
Typical support for JSOC.
Yep. But dry hole after dry hole after dry hole. Because man, and it's funny because at the time, we'd be on patrol in one village and our interpreters would come up and be like, hey, he says he knows where so-and-so's at. And then they'd spin it up and we'd do a raid. So-and-so's not there. It's just some dude that he hates. It's a silly game that we played. But at the end of the day, it was fun because I enjoyed like being immersed in the culture. We lived out in the middle of fucking nowhere. We were eating goats. We were riding horses on patrols. Like we were fishing in the Kunar River with grenades.
Weren't those the days, man?
I built shape charges and set it in the river and shoot it across, and then you'd see 40 fish float to the surface. The little Afghan kids would go in and scoop them all up, and we'd all do a fish fry. Like, that was like real shit that really had nothing to do with actually killing bad guys. And like I said, the intermittent IED or whatever, but we never had any face-to-face fighting. And we were working our fucking asses off too. My PL's theory was like, Rangers are in Afghanistan, they're going to be doing the Ranger mission. And it was fucking raids, recons, and ambushes all the time. And dude, nothing would ever materialize into a real firefight though. We started being like, dude, what the fuck is going on here? Because we had orange guys out there with us doing SIGINT, and they'd be like, hey, we got intel that Chechnyan rebels are planning on doing this, and these comprehensive like battle plans. And then we'd set in ambushes. We'd wait all night under nods. Nothing. We're just like, dude, is everybody just completely fucked up? Does anybody know what's really going on around here?
You have those deployments, man. And then sometimes you have deployments where it's just utter fucking chaos.
Well, and that's the thing, bro. I started to get, because I don't care how switched on you are. You can only patrol so many times
without getting
when everything goes perfect before you start to get complacent. Yeah. That's just the reality of life, man. And I ended up leaving the regiment and going right into contracting.
Yeah. Why did you get out?
I really enjoyed my time with the regiment, but I also saw a lot of dysfunction in the military, and I didn't want to. I knew that I didn't want to do that long term, unless I went into either the unit or aviation, right? But at the end of 2003, I was like, you know what, man? Contracting was already becoming a thing. And I was like, I'm going to just get out and do that. And ended up going right from the Ranger Regiment into Triple Canopy. And back in those days, Triple Canopy was founded by a bunch of unit dudes, and they didn't let you join unless you were a stud.
And they were paying.
Yeah, dude. We had a selection process. We had a PT qual, a shooting qual, but also everybody was cool to you. There was no big dick energy. They're like, hey, you meet the standards or you don't. And you'd go to class in the morning, and there wouldn't be 5 dudes that were there yesterday. No one says why. There's no questions. That's just how that process worked. And it was such a blessing to be a young ranger, because young rangers are fit, we can shoot, but more importantly, we're very comfortable with our eyes open and our mouth shut, because you're still kind of the bottom of the totem pole.
They're bred that way. They're like you're a hammer.
Pole.
Be a hammer.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so when I'm going through a selection with a bunch of unit dudes, I'm happy to just be fucking taking it all in. I'm going to shoot hard. I'm going to work out hard. I'm going to shoot well. And then if that's enough, that's enough. And a lot of Rangers got picked up because they liked our culture.
Yeah.
Like a lot. And I saw it firsthand. We were going through selection with a Green Beret. And part of selection was also going over some of Triple Canopy's SOPs. And they'd talk about different ways of protecting your principal, motorcade operations, things like that. And this one SF dude's like, yeah, I understand that you like your follow vehicle to do this, but I think, and it's like, bro, there's a time and a place for the I think. We're in selection, dummy. You know? And needless to say, he wasn't there the next day.
So it's like, you just say roger that.
Say roger that. I tell people all the time, once I became a leader, I said, eyes open, mouth shut, take it in, figure out who's who in the zoo, find how you can best fit into the team. I said, unless you see something that's egregious or a safety violation, everybody can speak up and fucking, it's like every time you go to the range, anyone can call a ceasefire, right?
Right.
It's that type of mentality. But outside of that, be the fucking gray man and figure out who you are, how you fit in, and how the team's structured, and then start to make your presence known. And dude, the SF dudes were struggling in the early days of Triple Canopy. It's just because they come from a different culture. You know?
They're a lot more thinking involved.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
and so I get deployed pretty much immediately, and I go to Ramadi. And my project manager, it was a unit sergeant major that had just retired out of the unit, and he said, hey, just so you know, out here it's not if, it's when. We get hit all the time. And they had only had the team stood up for 3 weeks.
Damn.
So I was the second wave of guys.
What year was that?
That was early 04. And so I was the second wave of guys to come in, and they'd already been hammered a handful of times in a matter of 3 weeks. And sure as shit, dude, we would get between ambushes, indirect fire, RPGs, IEDs, we would get attacked more often than not. So you could just count on any time you're doing an operation in Ramadi, contact is almost imminent.
Yeah.
And it was a complete shift from Afghanistan. Like I said, my weapon didn't come off fire once in Afghanistan. It was a daily occurrence in Ramadi. Yeah. And it was just like, oh, so war can be like this too. Yeah. Okay, I get it.
Iraq was rough.
But that's the other thing. Iraq was rough because of the culture. Mm-hmm. You know, when I was in Barry Cout, Afghanistan, a lot of the village elders, they would come out, and obviously through our interpreters, they would tell us stories about the Taliban. They would tell us stories about how Taliban leaders would come into their village and shoot all their children, and like really fucked up things to be able to lead through fear. Mm-hmm. They kept the Afghan people very fearful, because fear is a great tactic to control people, right? So when we went and pushed the Taliban out, there was a lot of gratitude for that. And you felt that. You felt that on patrol. You felt that on your interactions with the Afghan people. And I started to think, man, we're providing freedom for people. They love us. Mm-hmm. And that was the case in Afghanistan. I felt that. I experienced it. I'm here to tell you, nobody in Iraq wanted our fucking freedom. You know? Nobody, well, I should say, nobody in Anbar did. I did do a couple deployments.
I was going
up
to
in
say, like,
Erbil.
that's my experience as an AMBAR, so I agree with you.
Yep. And it's like, dude, fuck your freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the thing, man. Do we really think that we can just go into Ambar province and impart Western culture and Western ideology on these people? Who thought that was a fucking good idea? You know, of course it was never going to work, but we sure tried, man. And so for those of you that are listening that don't know, the whole mission with a lot of the contracts in the early days was Triple Canopy got a lot of State Department contracts. The State Department contracts were for...
I was going to say that's who thought it was a good idea, was the State Department.
Yeah. So State Department officials were basically trying to structure Ambar province to operate like a Western democracy. And they were putting mayors of cities in place, governors of provinces in place, and they would have a State Department diplomat basically shadow all of these government positions that they had built to teach them how to run a democracy, right? Well, for the insurgency, Al-Qaeda Iraq, that's what they stand against. We don't want your bullshit here. Mm-hmm. And so those diplomats that were kind of spearheading that, they had a target on their back. And if I'm being completely honest, I understand why now. You know, if I was a fucking 24-year-old kid in Iraq with the US State Department saying, hey, this is how we're going to structure your guys' country now, I would have been fucking putting IEDs in too. Mm-hmm. And so, like, I get it now. And at the end of the day, I'm always very careful when I talk about this because I don't think we needed to be in Iraq. I think we got fucking swindled, but I also loved it, man.
Yeah,
it was a wild ride.
It's hard for people to understand that is because I completely agree. Like being 43 years old now and looking back and like the lives that we lost and like my friends and, you know, it's like it's a hard pill to swallow on that side.
Yes.
But on the other side of the coin, it's like, bro, I was trained to do that job. I really enjoyed doing that job. It's like being a football player and then you sit on the bench. No, you want to play the damn game. I wanted to play in the game.
And bro, and another thing that might be unpopular to say, but it's just true, getting in gunfights is one of the most exhilarating things you'll ever do. And the truth of it is, boots on the ground on both sides of the fence. You got 23-year-old Americans versus 23-year-old insurgents. Mm-hmm. They just want to fucking get it on, dude.
Yeah, they do.
It's just fucking men that want to fight men. Mm-hmm. And on the streets, that's what was taking place. Yeah. Now, like you said, you take that 30,000-foot view of like the political theater that was happening and the corruption and what people were, what our government was trying to structure. Okay, we could talk about that, right? But boots on the ground, men fighting men, there's something in our DNA that is called to do that. And when you go do that, obviously we were pursuing jobs in Force Recon and Ranger Regiment. Whatever that thing is, it's inside of us.
Right.
We're called to do that. And getting to experience that is something that helped shape who I've become and who I will be for the rest of my life. So I don't attach a sad story to that either. Mm-hmm. You know, just like I said, getting fired. Like a lot of people want to attach these sad stories to things that may have went wrong in their life, but then you're stuck there. So yeah, I did what I did. I do feel like we got lied to. I don't think there was weapons of mass destruction, but I'm not going to sit here and fucking cry over spilt milk. No. I did what I did, and I enjoyed it.
And that's what Josh and I always talk about when we do on a podcast. We're always like, bro, you signed the dotted line, man. You signed up for that. You volunteered. You volunteered for the military. Then you volunteered for selection. You know what I mean? Like you multiply volunteered to go to that job and to do that mission. Like, don't be shocked that if it goes sideways. Like you signed up.
Well, bro, and you want to know what's crazy is, you know, coming from the Ranger Regiment, part of our prestige and our history is like knowing Ranger history. Mm-hmm. And Mogadishu is a big part of our history. Right. And then did you just see that new documentary that came out?
I haven't heard about it.
Oh, bro, watch that. Because they give the perspective from both the Somalis and the Rangers. And you realize, bro, they went and interviewed a lot of the guys that were fighting on the streets
Mm-hmm.
that live in Mogadishu to this day. And you're like, they're talking about how, dude, the US helicopters would come over and they'd start shooting up these targets, and one of the targets was like a fucking old folks home, and a bunch of people in their 60s and 70s got killed. And after that happened, I said, fuck the Americans, I'm going to kill everyone that I can. And it's like, oh man, here we are again. It's the same story playing out. And so it's like,
Meanwhile, the State
I don't know,
Department's
man.
playing puppet master with everybody,
that's
right?
right.
Yeah.
And it's,
So what was your
again, as a young, or just, yeah, go ahead, man.
what was one of your most memorable moments, or kind of like defining moments in Triple Canopy?
Oh man, there's a lot of them. I think a lot of my best leadership lessons were learned there. Getting to work directly under the unit guys. It's funny, I'm actually having dinner with one of them Saturday night. I'm flying out to Jackson Hole. We're going to do dinner together with his wife and my wife. So a lot of good relationships were formed. But what sticks out above everything else is literally dipping my toes into combat for the first time, learning what it feels like to take a life, which at the time it was exciting.
Yeah.
It was like, fuck yeah, I'm a ranger. Like, this is what we do. Like, I remember the first time I killed somebody was from a rooftop, and I had a SR-25 with a really high quality optic on it.
Great gun.
And I was in a bunker with a Marine Corps Scout sniper. His name was Jeremiah Barrow. Because, dude, all the kids, all the infantrymen that were in the Marines, because Ambar was controlled by Marines. So everybody that we worked with, they were either 2-4 or 2-5. Those were the two battalions that cycled through that we worked with. And they loved us. Like, you get on venue and you'd be like, hey bro, can I sit in the bunker with you for a couple hours, get a fresh set of eyes on the road? And it was fun, man. It was always good vibes with the Marine Corps. I remember thinking after those deployments, I was like, maybe I was meant to be a Marine, because the Marines are fucking rad, dude. Like,
There's
those kids.
very similar mindsets between guys in the Ranger Regiment and then
Yes.
infantry Marines. Very similar.
No, I tell people all the time, if you want to be part of a very specific special operations unit, if you want to be a Ranger, you need to go to the Army. You want to be a SEAL, you have to go to the Navy. But if you just want to be part of the military and you don't really know what you want to do, 100% Marine Corps.
Infantry.
Yeah, like, as an organization overall, that's the best organization I've ever seen, man. I remember there was times when, like, Lance Corporals would be like, hey, Sergeant, can we go out and do a movement to contact today? He'd be like, yeah, when do you want to leave? I don't know, let's half hour. Yeah, I'll go let everybody know. And like, bro, this is the streets of Ramadi. Like, they were excited to go do that.
I always
on a
say
daily basis.
I always say the most dangerous thing in the world is a company of 0311s.
Yep, 100, bro.
That's
And I
the
got
most
to live
dangerous
that.
force in the world, is a company of infantry Marines. Like, God help you if you are on the other side of a company of grunts.
And that's the truth.
Yep.
That's not like some fucking slogan from a recruiter. I got to watch it day in and day out, dude. Because when you're doing a protection detail, the truth is your primary battle drill is break contact.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
you have a principle to protect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I was part of the CAT team very often, which is a counter assault team. But a counter assault team isn't going and taking the building down. They're just basically pulling up, popping doors, and fucking shooting a few bursts.
So they can.
But where we
Yeah.
So we can facilitate the extraction of the principal, right? Where we did get in tons of engagements was on venue, though. You'd go on venue, and they would know this principal's here, and they would literally assault the facility, and that happened time and time again. And bro, it's like you're playing a fucking video game.
Yeah.
And so this particular time, like I was saying, I was sitting on a rooftop with a Marine Corps Scout sniper, and he identified an enemy combatant. And I hate to say this, but it's the truth. He took a shot and he missed.
It happens.
And he had the U-Nurdle, the fucking the fixed 10 power, and it was a 363-yard shot because I lased it. I'll never forget that. And I took the follow-on shot and dropped the guy, and I was like,
"What do you say?"
Oh fuck, dude! There it is. That's it.
Yeah.
You've done multiple deployments. You were a ranger. You're sitting on a rooftop in Ramadi, and you just fucking killed a human being. And dude, you know that old saying, like, what's it feel like to kill a man? Recoil,
Yeah.
But the truth was, there was no emotion around it. There isn't emotion around it.
I think there's a big misconception with veterans like that have post-traumatic stress, and I believe in all that, and it's all very, very real. I don't think it comes from the fight of fighting the enemy or killing the enemy. I think it's all the other stuff around that. I think it's your friends. Like, what really keeps me up at night, or what really bothers me, is like losing brothers. Not the bad guys, not savagery that I watch like kill kids and like rape children, and like people don't even understand like the tragedies that really truly happen over there behind closed doors. But none of that stuff bothers me or my friends. It's the things around it that really caused a lot of the issues.
Or the other thing because I've lost 7 teammates to suicide over the last 10, 12 years. The thing that I saw plague men more than anything echoes exactly what you said. It's not like, oh man, I shot this guy and now he's in my dreams. No, man. It's, I came home and I lost my purpose. I lost my brotherhood.
Yeah.
I lost the camaraderie. And you go from being a Force Recon Marine in Fallujah to now you're stocking shelves at night at Home Depot, and it's like, who the fuck have I become?
Yeah.
And I talk about this a lot on my show because it doesn't matter if you're a Force Recon Marine or an athlete or really anything, man. If your Super Bowl is in your rearview mirror, guess what? That's a path towards darkness and depression. You have to know you have fucking exciting, like, fulfillment, powerful experiences.
The best days
are ahead. You have to believe that.
Yeah.
And also, if you believe that, guess what? That becomes true. But so to go back to that story, fucking shot this dude, and me and that dude gave each other a high five, and we were just laughing, shooting the shit, and then he got killed the next morning by an IED. And I remember thinking, like, Corporal Jeremiah Barrow killed by an IED. And I remember thinking that next morning, I was like, wow, it came full circle that fast. Like, I killed that dude yesterday, and then the dude I was with got killed today. And it's just like, okay, this is what war feels like.
Yeah, and that's where it comes from. Because what do? You just move on.
Yeah.
Because the mission continues.
Yep.
And I think that's where the heaviness comes on. It's not from killing the enemy. It's like, yeah, I'm doing this job, and then your buddy drops dead next to you, and then what do? Fucking keep moving.
Yeah. And the thing is too, man, I'm always very careful when I talk about this because not having many of those emotions, it seems kind of callous, it seems kind of unfair, but man, you can't do the job if you're going to be grieving and sad and really allowing yourself to feel what we probably should feel.
Yeah.
So what do? We push it down, we compartmentalize it. But this is where I think the American warrior is not doing things correctly. I think when we come home and we remove ourselves from that environment, that is where we should have taken a page out of like the Book of Five Rings, where Morimoto Musashi talks about the most elite warriors have to balance their energy with creation, with love. You guys should be growing gardens. You should be writing poetry. You should be playing music. What did we do? We came home, got blacked out drunk, beat people up, and fucked as many girls as we could.
And then just, while we're waiting to go again.
While we're waiting to go again.
That's exactly. So really, you just nailed it, dude. That was our life.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah. And so the chaos never stops.
Right.
You actually bring that chaos home with you.
And then you're addicted to it.
Until you get to deploy again.
Yeah.
And bro, I used to tell myself this. My next deployment's the one that's going to kill me likely. So these few months at home are going to be pure chaos.
How many times you heard me say that? I literally, like, I live my life. Like, I look at, like, investing and being financially literate and all the things that I've done over the last several years. You know, I look at that then, I'm like, dude, I legitimately believed I was not going to live. So I'm like, fuck it. 90 grand tax-free bonus. Fucking, like, let's run it.
New H1 Hummer.
Yeah,
New fucking
sure.
motorcycle that I wrecked in a week. You
So
know, like just
let's
fucking
put
debauchery.
let's put a pull in. Let's go here. Let's put fucking whatever. Yeah, man. 100%. That was it.
However, like I said earlier, it was also a fucking fun ride. I don't think I regret it.
It was.
I wish I could have. I mean, fuck, man, we were making $30K a month in the early days. Had I made some at a minimum, we could have bought fucking 4 or 5 rental properties.
Right, and that's the only thing. And I think young guys now, especially the ones that surround themselves with me, that, you know, in our community, like they're living off like 40% of the income. They're investing 60% of their income. They're not getting drunk like we did. You know, like they're heavily invested into the S&P 500, crypto, and they're not making shit, but I'm like, dude, you're 20 years old. Like, when you're my age, you're fucking made. You know?
Fucking. But you know what? Me. I'm learning all these lessons later in life.
Yeah.
And
it's all right. We got a lot of runway ahead of us still.
Yeah, it's all good, man. And we're getting into that too, man. Like, we hired a wealth coach who is one of the best traders in the country, and is teaching my wife more than me because she has math brain, right?
Yeah.
But teaching her how to read patterns and watch the moving average and get in and out and in and out and in and out and in and out. Because most people think you buy a stock, you wait, and then it goes up to here, and then you sell, right? But the good traders are watching all these little ticks.
Yeah, I don't
making money.
I don't do any of that. That's too stressful for me. I'm all long. Everything's long term. I'm playing a long game.
Well, bro, maybe I'll send you some stuff and try and bring it to the dark side.
No way, man. I can't handle it. I just stay emotionally stable and just, you know, when it drops, I buy and just keep on buying.
Right.
So from triple canopy, like, for one, the marshals, you were a US Marshal. It takes 2 years to get in there, typically, by average. Like, how did you? Yes. What was that process?
So I'm now on my 14th deployment to Iraq, and bro, I'm gonna do this forever.
Yeah,
I'm rich, right?
Yeah,
this is fun. But in that process, I met my wife. We got married, and she sends me a picture of a positive pregnancy test. Oof. While I'm deployed, and she goes, I don't know if we can keep doing life like this, because, you know, the contractor world, you're gone 6 to 9 months a year.
Yeah, you want to be for that tax advantage.
Yeah, and sometimes more. There's some guys that just fucking didn't. They basically just PCS to Iraq, right? But man, I agreed with her. I was like, okay, I decided to get married. We're having a family now. This is probably not congruent to having a family. And so I was like, well, what can I do that's stateside, that's badass, that's going to give me that same feeling, right? And I was like, well, a guy on my jiu-jitsu team was a deputy US Marshal, and he's always telling me, he's like, bro, you're a perfect fit for this. You're a perfect fit for this. So I end up applying, going through the 2-year application process, which now I understand is just because everybody's dysfunctional in the federal government.
Right.
And, man, I get hired, and it was never anything like I thought it was going to be. I became a deputy U.S. Marshal. I got stationed in Los Angeles with the understanding that I was going to be chasing, like, the country's most dangerous fugitives around. It was going to be like Tommy Lee Jones chasing Harrison Ford around, right?
No.
From watching The Fugitive as a kid. And
you're following a judge
all the time, bro.
Yeah.
I'm sitting in a courtroom. 95% of my duties was sitting in a courtroom, and then a lot of prisoner transports from jails to different jails, or from the jail to their medical appointment. And dude, I just felt like a fucking, like a taxi driver. And then I did get picked up by the Los Angeles SRT team, which is their special response team. And that's the team that gets to serve the high risk warrants for all the different federal agencies. So they have this matrix that's like, is there a history of violence, history of weapons, like, and if there's enough boxes checked, it goes to the SRT team. And I always say, man, if the SRT team was a full-time position, I'd probably still be there to this day. But we would only get tasked maybe once a month. And then the rest of the time was fucking courtroom. And it wasn't what I had envisioned for a career. But more importantly, I saw tons of leadership failures in the federal government. You come out of special operations and it's like, we both worked for plenty of people that are probably kind of like rough around the edges or kind of dicks, but you also know they have your fucking back, right? Whereas in the feds, that wasn't the case, man. A lot of snakes in the grass, a lot of politicking at every level. And I just realized there wasn't a lot of longevity. I wasn't going to do a whole career as a US Marshal. The other thing is I got stationed in Los Angeles. The whole reason that I decided to leave the military behind was to be more present for my family, come home and raise a family. And obviously my wife and my daughters were living in LA with me at that point, but we were still removed from the rest of my family. And I was like, I want to work my way back to Seattle. So I asked the agency.
How long were you a marshal?
5 years in total. Right. But I realized that probably wasn't going to happen. And I saw a lot of dysfunction and I wasn't impressed by the agency overall. So I was like, all right, I guess we'll try one more stab at law enforcement. Moved home to Seattle. And then that's when I went to work for the port.
How long were you there?
Let's see, 4 years.
4 years.
So, yeah, it's funny. My whole life is like Ranger for 4 years, contracting for 5 years, Marshal for 5 years.
Hey, man.
Police officer for 4 years. You know, it's like always something new.
The best is always yet to come, man. Got to keep turning the chapter.
Tell you what, the one thing that's been a consistent through all of that was jiu-jitsu. You know?
When did you start?
I started, we dabbled in jiu-jitsu in regiment.
Okay.
So like when I was a young Ranger, this is a triangle choke, this is a rear naked choke, this is the mount, and then we just go out in the back 40 and just fight each other to the death.
Yeah.
And I thought that was, at the time I thought I was pretty tough, but that's because it's just a bunch of untrained dudes grappling untrained dudes.
Yeah.
Sure, you're fit and you're strong and you're mentally tough, but you don't have any idea what the fuck you're doing. And it's funny, I hate to admit this story, but it's the truth. 2004, I was deployed to Ramadi, and one of the guys on my team was a Navy SEAL, and he was a purple belt and a Muay Thai kickboxer.
So he owned your ass. Owned you.
Bro, dude.
And you didn't even understand why.
No, he goes, hey, you want to train tonight? And I was like, of course, what do you do? He's like, grappling and kickboxing. And dude, I wrestled when I was younger for a couple years. I boxed for a couple years when I was a kid. So if you have just a very minimal skill set of knowing how to fight, like, you don't lose bar fights, you don't lose street fights. Like I thought I was a pretty capable human. This dude molested me
Right.
in a manner that was like, I didn't know that another man could do that to me. I like, in my brain, that was out of the realm of possibility. And I remember telling him, I said, I want to train with you every single day for the rest of this deployment. And we did. And came home. I joined 2 different gyms. I joined a gi jiu-jitsu academy and then an MMA gym. So I could start to learn both worlds. And then it never stopped, man. That was 04. And I train every day still. I fucking was strangling people last night.
When did you get your black belt?
I got my black belt in 2014.
So about, what, 12 years? Is that 12?
10 years.
10 years. Yep. Okay.
10 years to black belt, and it's been another 10 years since. And it's crazy, man, because when I got my black belt, obviously you get a black belt.
He'd be super fun for me.
Yeah, but you get a black belt, like, that says a lot about your jiu-jitsu journey. But I look back on who I was the day I got my black belt versus who I am today. Not even the same fucking universe, man.
Yeah, Matt from Epic Roll. I remember when he first got his black belt, and he's like, I'm gonna go do my first comp as a black belt just to get out of the way mentally. He said he is like one of his first matches was a guy who had been a black belt for 10 years.
Well, and bro,
And he's day one.
That is where the world of black belt's very different, because exactly that.
Yeah.
You can be a black belt for a minute, or you can be a black belt for 10 years, and those are two very different worlds. I want to show you something real quick.
Yeah.
Because it's the same thing, man. Now that I've been a black belt for 10 years, this was I competed on Saturday, and I don't compete a lot anymore, but it's something that I think every once in a while, as the leader of the team, I think is important to do. You can see I ended up taking gold.
Congrats.
But check this out, dude. All right, so.
Oh, I watched that
see,
one.
Yeah.
I replied. I said that was the most beautiful thing that I've seen, and most people don't even understand.
Right there.
Yeah.
Like, dude, to pressure tap a black belt for me was very validating, knowing that, like, dude, I'm still growing, my jiu-jitsu's still getting better.
But it was so smooth, and it was so, like, I know not everybody's gonna understand this listening to this, but it was so slow.
Yes, dude.
It was so
That's the difference.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to be frantic. You don't have to be urgent. But that's after you've been a black belt for a while. You start to understand the little pressure points, the little control points. There's a lot of things, and that's why it takes 20 years to develop your game. Because, like, I tell people all the time, when I have mount, one thing that I'll do, I'll have that crossface, and then I'll lift that arm up, right, like this. But the crossface, I want your neck out of alignment, just like that much. Because when the spine is out of alignment, bucking becomes exponentially more difficult for them, because you can't generate a lot of power in your hips when your spine is out of alignment. And sometimes it's literally a matter of like quarter of an inch difference starts to isolate people very differently. But it's also fun transitioning from when we were young wild animals that were just super fit and super scrappy, where like you could just go, to now I have like old man jiu-jitsu, where I just pin people down and isolate them with pressure. It's just fun continuation of the journey, man.
Which what's funny is you say that, but then I've watched videos which you post on yours, which I think is great, of you letting white belts work on you, and then you've been put to sleep a couple times.
Yeah, dude. And I always say this as a caveat. I am not one of those guys that has too much pride to tap.
No.
Like, if I've got, I've got. You don't do jiu-jitsu for 21 years and not develop the capacity to know when you got.
Right.
But, bro, some of my young studs, like that one you're talking about, because I posted it, he was a gray belt at the time. He was only 15. And I was letting him, I'm letting him work, right?
Yeah.
But he threw up a bow and arrow that I didn't interpret as dangerous at all. And the next thing I know, I was waking up and they're shaking my feet. And I told my team during our bow out, I was like, hey, Hayden put me out today, and I didn't even know that he was putting me out. That's the power of jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And then I posted it too. And the reason that I posted it, something that I've seen throughout my jiu-jitsu career, is sometimes black belts want to hide.
Yeah.
And they get to a point where, like, they don't want to roll with certain guys, or if they get caught, they have this reason of why they got caught. Because, bro, you know as well as I do, you're a purple belt now, correct? Okay, so me and you roll enough times, I may have better jiu-jitsu, but we both know you can absolutely catch me.
I know enough that if you slip, I can catch you.
And that is why you have to continuously train to always keep your sword sharp, because as soon as you start to slack a little bit, those windows where people can catch you, they start to expand, right? And so instead of ever coming up with an excuse or trying to be like, oh, well, I was letting you work, or any bullshit like that, if my guys get me, I celebrate it. And so I
As
celebrate
you should.
it.
You're the leader. Like that's what you're hauled there to do.
Dude,
You're supposed to make them
that's
better
the
than
thing.
you.
Yeah. And dude, if you can build your athletes to where they beat you, you're doing something right.
Yeah.
And so that's why I posted that. because I had this professor one time. Obviously, I'm not going to say any names, but as I started to get to the capacity where I could catch him, I'd start to like isolate an arm, and then he'd be like, "Oh, good, good. Here, put more pressure behind my shoulder with your left knee. There you go. Yeah, 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 like that. Now cover the head with your leg. Yes, just like that. Perfect. All right, and then now take the arm. There you go. Tap. That perfect." And it's like, bro, we both know what you just did.
Yeah. You
You
avoided.
stole my victory from me because you used it as an opportunity to turn it into a lesson. And so, like, it's just leadership 101. I tell my guys all the time, and I'm sure you'll agree with me. Some of the best leadership traits that I've developed are not from working for great leaders. It's from working with terrible leaders.
What you learned.
And it lets you know I'll never do that, right? And it's the same thing in jiu-jitsu. I try and always build people up, celebrate their wins, and never try and take that victory away from them. Because, dude, if one of your blue belts or purple belts catches you, that's a big, dude, I fucking sub-professor today. That's a big deal, right? Why would you ever want to diminish that?
Well, not just that, but that actually is coming back on you because of what you've done for them.
Yeah.
Like they didn't figure that shit out by themselves. You know what I mean?
No, and another thing that's really cool, man, and again, like I said before we started recording, you said we'll probably talk about jiu-jitsu. I'll talk about jiu-jitsu for the next 10 hours if you want. This tournament's called the Revolution. And it's the biggest tournament in Washington State. And at the conclusion of the tournament, my team took second overall. And that means we beat some of the mega teams like Gracie Baja, Marcelo Alonso, who are all great teams, right? But normally these big teams will sweep the tournaments because they're big, strong teams.
They have a lot of people, and so the points
and they
add
have
up.
a lot of people.
Yeah.
When I saw that my team took second place, that was a lot of validation. It's like, okay, what you're doing is working now.
Yeah.
You know, like the proof is in the pudding. A lot of your athletes showed up. A lot of them took gold medals, and we're making it happen. It's exciting.
That's awesome, man. Well, dude, we're gonna have to do a part 2 because I still have like 3 more segments that I wanted to talk to you about, but I want to respect your time. I got to go talk to some PE guys.
Okay.
So,
bro, say when. I like your vibe. I like hanging out with you. So, whenever part 2 works for you, it works for me, man.
well, I'm gonna set it up because I think people need to listen to you a lot more. They listened to you, 5 years ago, and they listen to you now. So, speaking of listening to you, you still running the podcast?
Yeah, bro. My podcast is called The Endless Endeavor, and it kind of correlates with what we were talking about. Like, be looking what's in front of you in life. Life is an endless endeavor. Always be seeking excellence and truth and capability for what's going to happen tomorrow, not for what happened yesterday. And obviously, being a jiu-jitsu guy, law enforcement, military, that is very often kind of the themes of our show. But I also take it anywhere, man. I think it's important to have your show have the autonomy to be able to go wherever the fuck it needs to go. So sometimes we get crazy and have like spiritual leaders and stuff like that. But it's fun, man. It's a fun journey, as you know, just connecting with different people.
You have some great guests too, like really great guests.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
I also just finished my book called Courage Through Adversity, but we're literally in the preliminary phases of matching the publisher that wants to pick it up. Mm-hmm. So the timeline on that is somewhat unknown, but as that gets closer, I'll definitely let you know, man.
Well, they just need to follow you and listen to all your nonsense and ranting, so that when the book comes out, you can tell them. And then you've got your gym, Electric North Jiu-Jitsu, right?
Yep, Electric North. We are about an hour north of downtown Seattle, and our culture is very open. I don't do drop-in fees. If you're in the Seattle area and you're traveling through for work or vacation or whatever, pack a gi, come train with us, come share the mats with us, because one of the most important aspects of the jiu-jitsu culture is building those relationships and building those connections. So I love it when people stop by and train with us. Everybody is welcome.
Awesome, man. Well, dude, thank you so much for coming on. Go check him out. Dude, as a great American, one of the 2% left, one driving the train. So, dude, I appreciate coming on and having a conversation with me. And guys, you guys know the deal, man. Continue to build your discipline and continue to drive your life through purpose. Peace. Hey guys, thanks for watching. I really appreciate that. Remember to like it. Remember to drop me a comment. I want to respond to it. I'm actually the one responding to the comments. And if you like this video, you're going to absolutely love this one right here.